Baali was perched on a rock overhanging a cliff. He wiped the sweat off his forehead with the back of his hand and went back to what he was doing. The sun was beating down on his bare back with a vindictive intensity. A hot breeze blew, covering Baali in dust, and then everything became still again. Rivulets of sweat traced their path over his black skin and pooled under his cracked feet. Baali tried to spin the Arani twig once again. He had seen the mendicants doing that in the ashram. They spun the pointed Arani twig on a hole dug into a wooden plank and chanted mantras for hours. Baali had seen the twig smolder at first and burst into flame. That was how holy fire was made. Baali was not sure whether it was the magic of the mantras or the spinning of the twig that made the fire. He knew no mantras, and he was never allowed near the sacrificial altar where the Brahmin mendicants performed their rituals. But he was always fascinated with fire. He had got a discarded Arani twig and had rushed to the rock to conduct his experiment. He had spent some time in the morning to get the sparrow nest for his twin Sugreeva. The thought of Sugreeva made him smile. Though they were of the same age, Sugreeva always considered Baali his elder brother. Baali had no one else in the world except Sugreeva. The boy is a dreamer and trusts everyone blindly. He needs to be protected, thought Baali. He wiped sweat from his brow with the back of his hand and went back to spinning the twig. A whiff of smoke rose from the tip of the twig. Baali paused to smile. He whistled a long-forgotten tune and resumed his work rigorously. He pushed some dry leaves into the stone depression and blew hard as he continued to twirl the twig. Baali paused to catch his breath. His palms had grown red with exertion, but he looked at his handiwork with satisfaction. The thin waft of smoke had dissolved into the air, but he was feeling elated. Sage Gautama, the head of the ashram, had barked at him when he had asked how fire was made. The sage had lectured Baali that fire was sacred, and it was not something Vanara boys should even think about, let alone learn how to make. Fire hid in the trees and in the sky, the sage had said, and it was the mantras that set the fire free. The world was made of 5 elements: fire, water, earth, air, and sky. And the fire was the most important among the 5. Those who controlled fire controlled the world. The fire burst with a snap and licked the dry leaves. The fire needed no magical chance to appear. It had come to him, a low-caste forest dweller, just by rubbing a few twigs. It needed only effort and perseverance. That he had in plenty. Baali watched the flames consuming the leaves and pushed more of them into the fire. The fire cackled, and Baali slapped his thigh hard in satisfaction and laughed out loud. Agni, the fire god, didn't discriminate between the Brahmins who knew Vedic chants and a poor Vanara child. Did he think himself as Vanara? He paused. He always hated the slur, but had no power to protest against it. His desperate attempts to correct other children in the ashram had always ended in disaster. But one incident amused him still. It had happened during last summer, just before the monsoon clouds had arrived across the western mountains. Baali chuckled to himself as he remembered it.